heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad, in the hands we've been dealt.
Out. There it is. We're off to a great start. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Silverline Wednesday Night WHAM! Hosted by Dean Zachary, myself, and John. I think that's all we got this week. Yes. Why am I old? I think, there we go. All right. Dean, why don't you speak a little bit?
Convention protocol, which may or may not include such subjects as frequency of bathing, how long to hang out at a table and talk to fans and or creators, how to receive payment, when to receive payment, how much is too much to charge, should you charge for signatures, and all that sort of crazy stuff that people have questions about when they go to conventions pre-COVID.
So
Yes.
tonight's all about etiquette and protocol? You know, that's my primary function.
Wow, that's nice. Very nice.
Good. We're good.
You know, it can meander into other things, as it often does. But Tim, you
Sure.
go ahead and start us off. What do you want to discuss?
Yeah. Amy, Stephanie, and Chet says, "Holy moly, Metych is on time." I know.
No, I was late.
Right?
For me.
But the time that he's here, no one else is. So I think it's double points for John. Yeah. And we were given permission to kind of meander into other industries as long as it's all kind of in that same space of
Absolute
interaction. And yeah, so this our leading topic is paying for autographs. This has been a hot button issue in many entertainment industries for a while. Anytime how much of your fan interaction can you monetize? And should you monetize your fans as much as it happens sometimes? I am a youngling in the creator world still. But I've been a fan for a long time. So I've paid for autographs and I've only recently upgraded from the tip jar in front of my guitar at the local punk venues.
Very nice, very nice. How, if I may ask, ballpark range, how much have you paid for just autographs? And you don't have to use names, but were these celebrities in the comic world up, on the echelon level of, say, Jim Lee, or were they, mid-level, or expound on that if you would?
I as a rule of thumb, unless it's like a heavy collector's item, I never spend any more than like $25 on any singular thing at a convention.
Okay.
And that includes autographs. And these, I think one of them was a person who's currently working on a bigger title at the time, but it's mostly people who've been years removed from either working on a big title or have been in kind of the more niche markets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, John? What thoughts on, ballpark of payment and level of celebrity encountered?
I've encountered all level of celebrity, and luckily I've been going to shows since the 80s. So, I'm kind of from the old school where, even after like Image launched, the Image guys were signing stuff free. That was very, very cool. Those were the great days. So, to see, newer up and comers after like, the magnificent, I can't even talk today. The Great Seven, when they were doing like free autographs, it's like, okay, so you got the noobs that are trying to charge 50. I'm like, that's kind of rough. I think I paid $40 for a photo op, but that was with a
Mhm.
celebrity at a convention. And I usually don't do the celebrity route, but Erica Durance from Smallville was there, and
Ah.
she
Oh,
was
nice.
perfect. She was so
Yes.
much fun at another show when she was helping raise money for the Jeff Loeb fund after his son passed, and she was doing
Yes.
she was walking around and just playing with the audience and everything and trying to get a whole lot of people auctioning. So she was really cool. So I did a picture with her. But, you know, autographs maybe 20, 25, and I top out at that,
Yeah.
if that. You know, I've met so many great people that are just so loving and giving of their fan or for their fans.
Yes.
It's kind of cool when you don't have to pony up cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One of my favorite memories from a con was a few years back, 2007, I believe it was, at San Diego, and Rosario Dawson was there, and I got to meet her, take a picture with her, and all that, and we talked for a bit. And she's one of these people who's a huge fan of comics and genre material anyway. And so I didn't mind paying, you know, for a photo op with her. And I, you know, I bought one of the comics that she was in at the time, and she signed it and so on. And it's cool that she's Ahsoka now, which is
my
so
son was
awesome.
thrilled
Yes.
that Ahsoka was making the
Right?
jump to live action. And
Right.
I knew her best from Clerks 2. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how that's gonna go. I hadn't seen anything else with her, and like my son's like, she's gonna look the part, she's gonna be great, and she did a great job.
She did right, and she's just as nice and genuine in person. And that's where I was going to go with my story, was that if the celebrity is a genuine person, I don't mind, you know, and they connect with the fan, and really there's no there's no level of condescension or snobbery or even perceived elements of those things. I don't mind it, but I think the general goodwill of just not charging is always better, because they've already paid the money to get into a con. And if it's something like San Diego, they've already paid a lot of money, and they're spending a lot of money. And I'm charging for the materials I have, for example, and I'm a nobody. So I'm charging for my materials. But if I were to ever reach that celebrity level, I would be like, look, guys, you know, you paid a lot to get here. If you want to buy something cool, if you just want to talk, we'll talk. If you just want a signature, I'll sign anything. And I've always been like that. And I think generating goodwill like that, it pays off in the long run. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
You know,
When I was younger, so this was not too long after like all the new titles came out in 91, the new X-Men book, X-Force, the change with the X Factor with Strowman taking over the art. It was during that time, and it was one of the Image 7, let's say, that was on one of the X titles, and had a huge snaking line, and you know, a huge queue, and it was very
was
cool.
he in a jeans commercial?
Yes,
perhaps?
he was. Yes, he was.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, he was.
Incredible. Wow.
So
Okay.
I was high school or college at that point, because I graduated high school in 91. So at that point, you know, I'm waiting in line, and then I get to him, and he signs my polybag, X-Force 1, since you already guessed the letters, you know, and he had signed a couple other things that I had, and it was really cool. And then he said to me, he's like, hey, kid, you want a free book? And it was one of his first published appearances. That was like a promo ad from, I'm trying to remember who the publisher was. I'll remember later on. But he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. Can you watch my table? So, you know, he was up on a stage. So I just had to make sure nobody went up there and stole anything. And, you know, he signed the book, gave me the book. And then actually I went back to take a look at some of his original art towards the end of the show, after he was already done signing and everything. And I bought like 2 pages. And like the art rep that was outside, he's like, do you want him to sign them? I'm like, well, his signing's done. It's closed. He's like, go on in. He'll sign them for you. And so like I peeked my head in the room. I'm like, he said that you'd sign these for me. He's like, yeah, come on over, and signed them. And that was really, really cool. And I've always remembered that and appreciated that.
And seeing that in your fond memories of that event, then you're more likely to speak well of him, which is, you know, which is good. That's like I'm saying, that goodwill pays dividends. It really does. And I think, you know, people are free to choose how they wish to make their money, but I think if there's something tangible besides your signature, if there's a piece of art there, there's a book there, I think that's the way you generate funds. Give the fans something real.
Yeah.
I think part of it, the rise in the charging of signatures and the amount that they're charging, there's so many things that the internet broke, social norms, being nice to people, not being a keyboard warrior and a jerk because you're hiding behind a monitor screen.
Sure.
With flipping, I think flipping kind of really upset a lot of the folks because I'll bring you a short box of books that you worked on, Dean, and you're going to sit and you're going to sign them for me for an hour. And then you go up on eBay and you see, hey, that free sketch I did for that guy, he wants $50 for it now. And, the books that I signed, he wants $10 each. And you're like, well, what the heck? So I think that so many of the artists and writers and creative teams probably saw that happening so much, they were trying to put a stop to that, which is a shame because I can't tell you how many cool people, industry folk, did sketches for me, head sketches, full bodies, at back the day you asked and they did something cool for you. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Before everybody was just trying to profiteer off of their kindness, and you could tell a true fan versus a flipper,
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the practices I've seen that I kind of agree with is if someone comes up to you with like they're like 1 or 3 books or whatever, they're just there to like talk with you and hang out. If someone comes up to you with a box, what some people say is either they charge them for everything past 3, or they'll say, "All right, I have time to sign 3 now, and then I gotta take something else, but then bring another 3 back to me at the next convention, and I'll sign those for you again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. There's a fine line. That brings me to the subject of time spent with fans. And here's the thing. There's a lot of nice folks that want to stop and visit, and I don't mind that at all. And what you learn to do at cons is you learn to be as gracious as possible with fans who want to discuss things and talk with you, whether it's process or whether they want to talk about a book you did in the past and discuss that. And there's a fine line. You have to balance the time you spend with them, and then there's other fans waiting as well. And most people are super, super nice, and they understand, like, well, I need to, I appreciate you coming by and I need to move on. There's people waiting, and they'll take off. But then there's the people who talk for a really long time, and they won't, and you have to play that very gently. And as we were talking off camera a bit about, sometimes people can, creators can be jerks, and I've seen it happen. I'll tell the story of now. This person was not a jerk to me. They were just a very, very tough coach, and it ended up helping me out. And that was Neil Adams. I had a portfolio review with him a while back, and he just destroyed it, and just was so tough on me. But there was a level of encouragement there, and he spent a substantial amount of time going through it, and it was in San Diego, so I mean, it was busy. And I thanked him for it, and I went back and practiced some of the things he recommended, and I was better off for it. But some people don't like to be criticized, so
I think
Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was saying also, like you're saying, like there's some level of encouragement there, and there's that definitely that difference where if you're what I gather other people who have sat on Neil Adams and people like him is it's not just ripping sheets out of your portfolio saying, "Oh, this is trash, this is trash." He'll go like say this line's shaky. Oh, you need to work on this shadow here. Whereas if you post something to your DeviantArt portfolio, you'll just get random comments saying this is this is terrible, take it down. But I think if you want to have any longevity in any sort of creative career, you have to get used to interacting with people who are more experienced than you in it, and listening to them when they say something needs work. They're doing that to let you know that if you want to get on their level, this is your path to that.
Absolutely.
It's very much a teacher trait,
Yeah.
you know, and the fact that they're willing to share their knowledge, experience with up and coming, you know, talent is awesome.
Yeah.
So talking about, you know, you were talking about Neil Adams. So my run-in with Neil Adams, I'll share this one with you, was a couple of years ago. Well, more than a couple at this point, probably 2012, maybe 2011, 12, 13, something like that. Wizard World Chicago. A bunch of us had a booth set up, and Neil was on the back end behind us. And it was Sunday morning, and he came walking through the con before the con opened, and, you know, saw the group of us there and stopped and chatted for a minute or two. And then just like out of nowhere, he's like, okay, you guys want a picture or what? And so we're like, yeah. So I'm the only one who didn't get in the picture because I was taking all the pictures. But it was, I just thought it was so cool that he stopped by, chatted in the morning, and then it was just like, okay, since Noe is going to ask, he's going to offer. You guys want a picture? And we're like, oh my God, yeah. You know, that was just so cool of him. You know, and then he went about his way. So I like that. That was awesome.
Yes. Yes. So nice creators. Have you run into any that were not so nice?
Tim?
I don't think I've had that experience. I've had booths next to not nice creators, or have been
You've witnessed
but,
interactions that are less than kind.
and it's
right.
I mean, also I think the weird thing is Rose City Comic Con, our Comic Con up here in Portland, it's a lot different than San Diego or New York, in that your Marvel and DC are pushed in the back. The main floor is going to be Image, Dark Horse, Top Flight, and like kind of Oni also recently just blew up, but it's the smaller presses, and then also there's a huge indie section on the main floor, just because they prefer the locals over the big names.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And which I think is super rad. But you'll get random non-comic people in there who just managed to buy like in the floor adjacent to wherever. So when I was helping out with Mad Cave, there was a random fantasy author who had managed to dominate the entire floor with cosplayers of a certain scantily clad quality. And
I understand.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying.
And was spent most of the time mocking the comic people there. And we're just sitting there like, well, why are you here? This is great. It was super great.
Yeah, I you know, rudeness doesn't work. You know, what's it? And booth, you know, we at times, this is a politically incorrect phrase, so everybody just be cool, but we used to call it the booth babe phenomena, right? You had people dressed up, and you know, the thing was, these women were professionals, a lot of cosplayers, and you know, you have to treat everybody with respect, and I expect that from the creators too. You know, the fans, creators, you know, everybody just be respectful to each other, and it goes better that way. But yeah, I've seen similar things happen to what you're talking about. It's like, wow.
There's oh, sorry, Tim, my bad.
I was gonna say, yeah, and with and especially with how big cosplaying's gotten recently, that like these people, usually women, but it's changing and more men in there. I've had it stated several times that if someone wants to put me in a leotard and prop me up in front of the booth, I will do that. No, for just a burrito. But they spent so much time in their costumes just to like get the look that they want and to make it look professional quality too, that they that for the person to hire them out to be disrespectful, like let alone just random passersby, it's very off-putting.
Yes. What were you gonna say, John?
There is one artist that, and I did see this one firsthand, and I guess it's not the first time that the gentleman had done it. He has quite the reputation for how do I want to word this? Basically taking over other people's tables. And you know, it's like, oh, the convention promoter has given him these 2 tables, and he's like, this swath of land is mine, and takes like 5 of them.
Wow.
Either pushing other people's stuff aside or off the table, or planting his flag before people get to set up their stuff. And so they come in, and you have the primarily cover artist who has all of his prints out, and with the huge tracts of land, and nobody else could set up their stuff for the area that they paid for. So luckily that didn't affect me, but it did affect the people who were at the table next to me at a show.
Yeah.
And I hated seeing that. That's just rude. I mean, that's rude and inconsiderate. I don't care how big a creator you are or how little a creator you're sitting next to. That person you're sitting next to is a fellow creator. Do not do him or her wrong by being that rude and inconsiderate.
Yeah. And say that is the benefit of being a bigger dude with big shoulders and the ability to project my voice very loud. Is there have been moments where we've had people who've started set up in the corner in front of our table or doing whatever, and all of a sudden we're blocked off, and then I just kind of stand up and lean over like, hey, if you don't mind moving around, I gotta throw this ninja comic at this kid across the way. Then they straight up just being a kid with a ninja comic. I'm like, there you go, it's free.
I'm picturing you saying that while wearing a leotard and threatening them with a burrito. So
that's that'd be on brand for me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of leotards and burritos, did you guys see the famous mimes at San Diego? Have you seen these mimes I'm talking about? What they have the
I've
red
never
carpet.
been to San Diego.
Oh my gosh, it's a circus. But I mean, not taking anything away from any of the other ones, but this particular time, one of the weirdest experiences was seeing these two individuals dressed in the same exact color as the red carpet, and they were moving around as mimes, and then they would freeze and blend into the carpet. They would lower themselves to the floor, blend on the carpet, and then rise back up and do the mime thing. And it was eerie, and it was cool, but it was eerie at the same time. So watch out for them.
They were like carpet red.
Yes,
that's interesting.
It was carpet red, so it matched, and they were literally full body covered. And we would just stare and watch them and just go, that's oddly compelling to watch and terrifying at the same time. So they were mimes. So it was like, I don't know, what are they going to do now? Are they going to try to walk around and break out of a glass booth or what? So it was fun. It was kind of cool. You see all kind of crazy stuff in San Diego. The other thing I remember, one of the best cosplayers I've ever seen. This woman had spent so much time on her costume, and she was obviously a dark elf. And we were on the escalator, and so I'm just sitting there going, this is like movie level. So then she turns around to talk to a friend of hers, and she's even got the contact lenses in.
Oh yeah.
And it was eerie, man. It was like, okay, that is so realistic that I just got chills. It was very cool.
I think the Warcraft movie, I believe they had some of the extras in the Orc and Human Armies that actually found World of Warcraft cosplayers at San Diego, and like, hey, we're filming this movie in a couple months. Do you want to get flown out to be part in a battle?
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Not that this ties in directly, but Tim, you probably know this already since the poster is behind you. Mandalorian.
Yes.
You move that way to cover it. So Mandalorian, I guess their budget didn't allow for all the stormtroopers, so they called in people from the 501st.
Yep.
That said, hey, you want to be on the show? Come on in, and that's how they got all those troopers there.
Yeah, that was the final scene, because they allowed them to spend their budget outfitting the Mandalorians, because all the stormtroopers in that last battle in town were volunteers essentially.
And that was a great app. They were all great episodes, but I just thought that was so cool. So when you had mentioned, about finding cosplayers, it made me think of that.
Yeah.
And just the plug for the 501st, the guys are nice. The ones I've encountered are such nice people. And when I had the good fortune and opportunity to draw an issue of KOTOR for Dark Horse when they had the license, I was invited to be honorary member of the 501st. So I have a little badge and everything.
Oh,
and here's one of the perks that comes along with that. The local chapter will appear. All you gotta do is call them, and they will escort you to a con if you're an honorary member. So
so
I could,
cool.
isn't that cool? I could
Right.
at any time, have the Rancor Rangers show up at a local con and escort me in for the pomp and circumstance and all that, which is, they do that for all Star Wars creators that they've invited. And so, they're cool people. They're
Yeah,
really
That's
cool.
very
people.
nice. We
Mhm.
in Illinois, I always bash the state, but there's some things that are good here. In Joliet, they do Star Wars Day every year, except for when there's a global pandemic. So there's always a big 501st presence. And so my son and I have been going for years, and I love the fact that they're all like kid friendly,
Yeah.
very photo friendly. A lot of them walk around and they have like their own trading cards.
Mhm.
So I see like the little kids running up to them asking if they have cards, and then you see the troopers giving them cards and everything. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's a good family day, and like you said, Dean, just genuinely nice people.
Very nice.
That's
Very much so. I think that's the key, really. What we're discovering here is that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim.
there's some weird delay going on with the Zoom. I don't know if it's my internet, everyone's internet.
I thought it might have been mine because I've been noticing a delay too. That's why I switched down to like the crappier camera.
Okay.
Because I thought maybe I was having problems with the big one. I'm on Wi-Fi, but I like unplugged the Roku, so that
Yeah.
can't be pulling.
My OBS says that everything is going through fine, so I don't know. I think we're just having technical issues all around. But yeah, I think Dean about to make the same point. Is the core of it is understanding that you should really be courteous and friendly to everyone there, and that understanding that the circumstance of the convention, everyone is there to have a good time, and if someone's being disrespected, they're not going to be enjoying that convention, then that may even turn them off from the community even more. And
Yes.
yeah. And also, if you do see something that's super cool and you want to dig out a picture with it, ask, just communicate. There was another poster I have right next to Mandalorian is Critical Role. You can see the table, but not themselves. But there was a group cosplaying the Mighty Nine, and that was me and the guy at my table next to me were both huge Critical Role fans. So we're like, hey, can we just like grab pictures of you guys because your costumes are super rad, and we're very surprised that I guess that we had asked beforehand because they're attractive females, and I'm sure they may have had some bad experiences in the past. But they're more than happy to show off their hard work and that they've put together, and hopefully that was a positive experience for everyone involved. But it's all about communication and being respectful with everyone you interact with.
That's true. And I want to bring up something that's sort of tangent to that subject. And that is, the pros and cons of what we now call the Hollywood connection to comics. They're sort of the pre-Iron Man 1 and post-Iron Man 1 comic convention world. I think we can all agree. We discussed part of this before, where pre-Iron Man 1, their comics are sort of a cottage industry with a very intimate group of creators, and many of us knew each other and met each other repeatedly at cons and worked together. And there was almost like a brotherhood there, sisterhood, a fraternity, sorority, whatever you want to call it. And then after Hollywood got involved and it just went through the roof money-wise, then all of a sudden it becomes this business, which again, there's good and bad to that. The good is pretty obvious. More interest, more money's flowing, more opportunities for people, et cetera, et cetera. There's some negative too, though, and that is what we used to call the starstruck celebrity hunters, really overwhelming the show. And you guys can speak to it at other cons, but it got particularly difficult to attend San Diego because the overwhelming throngs and waves of celebrity hunters, and I'm talking movie hunting people, not comic book people. While the two areas are connected, certainly visual storytelling, they're separate entities. And a lot of us felt that, we were being overwhelmed by a tsunami, and it became very difficult to not only compete for time and interest, but in order to pay for our respective expenses and so on, we had to really consider, as the years went on from, say, 2005, 2008 on, as we got to 2010 and 2012 and beyond, it almost became prohibitive to spend the money to travel to San Diego and set up there. The booth rates, and again, the celebrity hunting tsunami made it difficult. So what are you guys feeling on the plus and minus of the Hollywood connection now with comics, and the idea of, should the two be separate conventions now? How do you guys feel about that?
I think it depends on how it's handled. I parking in Portland is probably the worst inner-city parking experience I've ever had. But the way they handle their convention is fantastic. In how they've mitigated that, because I'd mentioned before how their main floor is going to be Image, Dark Horse, Oni, and all them. So you walk in and you're like, hey, you just saw the Avengers? Great. Do you like comics now? Cool. Try out these other guys. And so it forces you to walk through the indies and walk through the medium level presses before you get to the Marvel DC area. I think even you had to pass through the monster truck, like Monster Energy Drink truck, and the Gundam guy before you got to them. But every convention has a Gundam guy. But I think setting that up where you're welcoming, but kind of redirecting, or at least funneling through the actual market. I mean, San Diego's probably gonna be a little bit because it's the name associated, so that's where Marvel and DC are gonna want to pitch all their stuff. But in that case, I'd say maybe something like a different convention, or at least separate days or separate buildings.
Yeah,
Well,
I think,
Go
you
ahead.
know, for what I've seen, I think it even started earlier than 2005 from my perspective. So like, the 80s, the 90s, they were Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
Then they started morphing, and then eventually picked up the name like pop culture convention.
Right.
So that's when the expanse of coverage into not just comics, but actors, actresses, B level, C level, A level, a
Yep.
mix of celebrities depending on the show,
Yeah.
location. I think that's where it really started. So I'd say probably like the late 90s. When I back in the day when I was a kid, we had the Chicago Comic-Con and we liked it.
Yep.
And then Wizard bought it, and then it became Wizard World Chicago, and it wasn't the same show. Then they eventually did move locations, and definitely wasn't the same show. It lost that comic focus.
Yeah.
I've seen, at the Wizard show in Chicago, they had two different rooms at one point. You go right for the media people or left for the comic people. And so there would be people that wouldn't even know that there was another half to the show because, like Dean was talking, they were celebrity hunters. They wanted to go see Shatner, and they wanted to see Stan Lee. And, did you know he wrote comics? He's in all these Marvel movies. Yeah, actually, that was a conversation I had with somebody one time. They're like, oh, he actually wrote comics? Oh, hurts my head. But yeah, so, anyway. But yeah, it was really bad because they didn't even know the room full of creators was there.
Yeah.
Dean, your other question is a great question, and I don't think there's a good answer.
Yep.
Should they be separate things? Well, the two are kind of married at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't think one would necessarily survive as well without the other anymore. I think you kind of need both sides to that.
Yeah.
But that's also going to split, interests. That's going, and when you have people that are, celebrities charging, X amount for autographs, that's going to limit budgets of people who want to go buy books, buy original art, take a chance on an independent book that they've never heard of before.
Yeah.
That has definitely been painful over the last, again, because I'm old, I'd say maybe 18 years. So.
Yeah, I agree. One of the cons, I don't want to plug all these different cons, and we've got a con that we plug, and Tim will do that.
Yep.
But there's a con that actually isolates the two areas where it's not all in the same hall. Like you have Okay, over here are the comic people. They're in this particular hall. And then over here are the movie people. So from the beginning, you start to separate the focus of people. So people who have their budget and they go with the kids because they want to see comics and comic creators, they go this route. And then the people celebrity hunting go this route. And I think that may be a good compromise. Same show, two different physical locations. What do you guys?
Maybe do something also like how some conventions will do like an end of day event, or do something that kind of unifies the two of them. Where on a panel you have the cast of Avengers plus the current writer of Avengers get together and do something, or just some sort of unifying event also tied in with that.
Sure.
As I do think that overall more eyes on comics thanks to the Hollywoodification has done quite a bit. I've talked to quite a few people who have got into indies because they say like, yeah, I saw Iron Man and I wanted to go read some, so I went to shop and saw one, but it's next to a cool looking Boom book, so I picked that up as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think there is definitely benefit that we're seeing, but I think it's a matter of kind of directing focus, like Dean was saying.
That's what I had.
Press is good press.
Yeah.
And like I had said, I saw shows that have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't well directed, maybe because, like I said, some people didn't even know there was that other hall with comic people.
Yeah.
So they were off on their own, and they're like, "Oh, we've been here 2 days. We didn't even know this room was here." I'm a visual guy, so Dean, as you were talking, about like one hall here, one hall there. What would be really great, and if any convention people want to use this, I won't even charge you. Instead of doing like 2 halls that are rectangles, if you could make it U-shaped, so you could send them to hall A to the right and hall B to the left, comics over here and movies over there, but in the back they all bend together. So that way you have your primary focus, that's where you go in, but then you're able to wander into the other one.
That's how
I like that.
That's how Rose City is laid out. At least last time I was there. So you have the main convention center, and then it has kind of like an open foyer that goes in through either end. But the main floor, kind of the biggest end, is your local press and your indies, and then it goes through to the big 2, and then it goes through to the Hollywood section is actually kind of smaller. But it just kind of feeds it through back together. But as you're going through, it's like, oh, the indie guys are having this big party. I want to go there.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'll also say any attempts to make conventions more of just a really weird party, not like a pop culture party, like popular party, but a weird party, do really well. The last time I was at Rose City, they had a Monster energy drink sommelier. And I just thought about that with our conversation earlier, Dean.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah. So it's always you had this like full on like wine like one of those like pool party like resort style bars, and it's this guy who would pairing monsters for you.
I would seriously, anybody out there wants to do this, I would show up in a tux and be the sommelier for energy drinks. I mean, that sounds so much fun to me, you know? But that's a great idea. Things like that.
Yeah.
Just to make it unique. And also, what are your feelings on sketches, and do you like to leave material with the creator to sketch and come back and pick it up? Do you like to watch him sketch it there? Do you prefer short, brief headshot sketches? Do you want a full sketch and pay more and have him ship it to you? What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because I'm sure people listening have their own tastes when it comes to that.
I've actually never really done much of the sketch side of things. The last piece of art I bought was actually from Jamie Tyndall. Yeah. And he had just that's upstairs. But it was a Spider-Gwen piece he had done, and
very cool.
But he was doing canvas painting the entire time, so you could buy what he painted that day so far, and so you could watch him paint and then also pick something up, and that was
sweet.
That's cool. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Well, from the creator side, one thing is I like to really spend time on material and detail. And a lot of times when I first started going to cons, I would try to do all the work there, and I did. And it was good, and it has a certain urgency to it, and it's like improvisation comedy almost. You know, when you're on stage and you have to perform and you have to come up with the funny lines and stuff. You know, sometimes that's the best stuff, and there's a lot of energy to those what I call on stage con sketches. But then the take home send back con sketches, those are fun because you get to spend a little more time, a little more detail. I don't necessarily charge more for those, but it's interesting. John, what's your take on that? Take homes, on stage sketches, what do you like?
It depends on the creator and kind
Okay.
of knowing what their bandwidth is for things and what they're willing to do. I had a couple sketchbooks, just like the type you could pick up at the grocery store with the spiral binding on them.
Sure.
But still the art books that started getting filled years ago, like Pat Olive did some nice stuff in there, back, when they would do head sketches. I got like a Spidey and a Stacy. It was very cool. And then my girlfriend at the time got a Batman. So that was really cool. I know they've got some Batman fans in the house here. And Todd Knock, for example, he actually sketched out for me with Sharpie on like 11x17, like an arrowette from Young Justice.
Nice.
So, and while we were at the show. And going back to one of your questions earlier, Dean, what do we like? I mean, kind of talking, basics about just be cool to people, don't be a jerk at shows, and basically taking social cues. I've always felt awkward not knowing, does the creator want me to stand here and watch? Or do they want me to move along? Am I taking up too much of their booth space standing there? Because I love watching the creative process. But I also know, as a creative myself, it's not like, if you're really going to stand around and watch me type, I'm going to care. But if I was like, if I was able to draw, more than a stick figure badly, I probably wouldn't want to be watched. So I've never felt comfortable socially standing there or walking away. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Because I would love to watch your magic come out of your pencil and your pen, because that is so incredibly talented. But at the same time, I don't want to geez, dude, why are you just standing there? Some people prefer to draw to silence. Some people don't mind carrying on a conversation. So I really don't know. If it's a piece from an artist that I really love, especially if it's something with my characters, take home is great. I have no problem with that because I know they could put more time and energy into it. Kind of like you're saying, Dean, it's a different somebody that could do something while they're there. I'll definitely, gladly grab that opportunity.
Right. And
so I think the answer is all the above.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think, yeah, and also my perspective on this also comes down on the context of the situation and just knowing why the creator is there. I mean, if it's a convention, the creator has the booth set up in such a way that you can watch them do stuff, then I might sit around and watch. But if they have their thing set up so it's covering their face, and you pass them the thing, and then they just hunk back down behind, I'm like, okay, but you might want me to come back later. But also that both situations are different than if I were to come up to Dean while he's on his lunch break, like in the middle of the day. I'm like, hey, can you draw this for me? And I have a story regarding that kind of interaction as well.
Did you ever hear, because I heard this one, somebody trying to get an autograph from a celebrity underneath the stall of a bathroom door? Yep, heard that one. Somebody passed them like a signature book underneath the bathroom stall. Somebody's number 2 in. That's
But here's the thing, though.
Wow,
I would sign that. I would
No,
absolutely sign that.
That's rude. I mean, that's worse than interrupting lunch. I mean, that's interrupting
TMI,
getting
man.
rid of lunch. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a no. That's
In fact, for,
Well,
for most people, don't do that. But if it's me, I will sign that. But maybe not in the way that you want me to.
is it going to be in a brown ink by any chance?
Yeah.
I like the cut of your jib, kid. Here, let me sign that.
Yeah. That seems like, all right, I see you thought this through.
Wow.
You
Well, for
obviously
me,
need that
it's-
signature more than I do.
but for me, it's more of like I can gauge how long the commission is going to take by what the person has. For example, I would more likely be able to do a head sketch while someone watches than I would a full body, piece. Right. And it's gotten to the point now where I really just will tell somebody based on what they ask, and I'll say and I would recommend this for all creators. Tell your client the rules before. Don't make them just feel awkward and ask. Just lay it out and just go, look, here's the deal. I like to talk to as many people as I can. I got a lot of stuff, here with me that I want to talk to people about. So if it's a long, complicated commission, is it cool if I mail it back to you? If it's a headshot, I'll be glad to do it, but can you come back in, say, 2 hours and I'll have it done? And a lot of times I'll say, if you want to come back an hour and a half, you can watch me finish it up, that kind of thing. So it's really, again, it's about being genuine. It's about connecting with your fan. It's about saying, look, here are the rules. I hope we can work something out here. The other thing I would encourage young creators to do is get paid up front. Because I can't say how many times, no, I can't say 2 times. It took 2 times for me to do a very complicated commission, and the person never came back to get it and didn't pay me for it. And it wasn't so much, I wanted to get paid for the time I put in, but it was also the disappointment of not being able to see their face when they see the commission, because that's the payoff. For me, for every creator, it's different. Some creators are like, screw that, man, just pay me, But I like actually physically handing the piece to the fan and see their reaction to it. I'm one of those people where if I'm off getting lunch or taking a restroom break or whatever, and I get back to the table and one of my people at my table says, oh man, they came and got the piece, they loved it. I'm like, dang, I wanted to see that reaction, so that's a lot of it too.
All right. Well, we do have a review from Mr. Wayne Hall, so we will cut to that real quick, and we will be back with convention etiquette and the all-seeing Michael Lanning.
Hey, it's Martin again with Cosmic Times, here to review another book that I got off Kickstarter. This one's called Stellar Odyssey, and it's from
And we're back because the MP4 file is broken, so that'll happen next week.
Here, I'll pull the book out. We'll
there
review
you
it.
All right, here we go. Everyone roll for initiative.
+2, okay.
You can watch us make D&D characters live right here on Silverline.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
So-
some of the bigger stars are doing that now, so I guess it's warranted.
Thank you, Cece. Yeah, we were actually talking about this, the potentiality of Scott or myself doing a Silverline D&D stream at some point, and getting some of our
Ooh.
creators who play to
Wow.
do some sort of thing on stream.
Wow.
You know, I remember there was a. Did you ever play the DC role playing game?
I did not actually. So I've not actually touched the. It may sound sacrilegious, but I've not actually touched any of the comic RPGs. I know.
I had the original Marvel one that came in that
Yeah.
yellow box, and I had no idea what to do with it. And I'm like,
Let's-
so like you just make stuff up, and like I
That
had
says the
like
writer.
no idea.
Yeah, that's the worst experience is when you're a nerdy kid and then you find out about tabletop RPGs, but then you don't have friends to teach you what to do or to play with you. You're like, wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really sad, right?
Walk on one side of the table, play that part. Walk on the other side.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could be the superhero or the supervillain, and the guy would make up the city or whatever, the situation. Had a really cool character that could control shadow. I was a villain. Could control shadows, so I called him the Marquis.
Nice.
I liked it. But
Very nice.
I don't think I've ever
Very
finished a
nice.
campaign though.
So did you have to roll the
Yeah. Yeah, you had oh golly,
Yeah.
I've played so many of them. I can't remember how that one went. But more than likely, you probably had to roll a couple of different dice
Mhm.
to get
Mhm.
your initiative and whatever.
Yeah, I remember the
Sure.
the most recent Marvel one I've saw. It's a weird like 12 base system, so the highest die uses a D12, but it runs the gambit from like a D4, 2 D6s, or the D12. And like this is the really strange assortment of dice to use for this.
Very odd. Very odd.
I think that was what was cool because about Vampire the Masquerade, you had D10.
Oh. Yes,
That was it. That was it.
that's why I also like the Warhammer role playing games. Is it's all
Mhm.
D10 based.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, and also, but the players are squishy throughout, no matter what level they are. So there'll be moments where I had them find a rampaging horde of beastmen, and half the party just got destroyed. I'm like, okay, his intestines are hanging from a tree. His legs are over there. Your elf, her head is now just gone. It's paste.
Why would you do that? Because I can.
I do what the stat block tells me.
I have no idea what any of that meant, but I just want to yell Leroy Jenkins.
Yes.
So, you know.
Well, one of my favorite lines from Dungeon Master way back in the day, and this was the original TSR game we were playing, and he would always ask the same thing when we would get to a door and we would listen, and he would say, "So who's standing in front?"
Yeah.
Again?
Yes. Before you walk that door, can I get a marching order?
Yeah, it's like who's leading your party?
Yeah.
What's their armor class
Yeah.
again? Okay. And that was always fun.
And who just spoke? And were you whispering?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So where were we on the convention thing?
I've got to hear John's story about Mark Bagley.
Oh, I wish
yeah.
you didn't use the name. 'Cause I would-
Oh, he busted the name out.
All right,
Oh,
so
well,
let's
you know what?
rewind. Can we rewind the internet for a minute? And okay, so
Yes.
see Michael Landing. You want to hear the story about the unnamed creator? Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Sure.
Perfect.
And actually, you know what? It ties. Going back to where you guys were saying, what were we talking about? It ties back directly to what Dean was talking about before we tried to go to the broken MP4.
Mhm.
Where Dean was saying, for younger comic creators and get money up front.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
this whole story with the unnamed comic creator
Mhm.
is very much due to me paying for a piece up front. So
Okay.
one of my favorite characters, was Boom Boom from New Mutants, later
Yeah.
X-Force.
Very nice.
Huge Boom Boom fan. So there was a creator who recently had drawn her in a Marvel annual, and he was at a show, and I was there for one day. I was working, and maybe I wasn't working. No, I wasn't working at the comic store yet. I was still shopping there. So I knew the comic store guys that had a table there at the show as well. So I went up to unnamed comic creator and asked him if he would do a commission of Boom Boom, and he said yes, he would. I'm like, cool. Price was agreed upon. Gave him money, and then he asked me for photo references of it. I'm like, well, I don't have any with me. You just drew her in the annual. He's like, well, I need references. I'm like, okay. So I go over to a table. I buy a couple issues of New Mutants, which were pricier at that time because Rob Liefeld took over. They were Liefeld issues. So, I shelled out, just as much on those books as I did for the commission itself. Take unnamed comic creator the 2 books back. And he said, okay, come back by in 2 hours and I'll have your piece done. Okay, cool. So I come back by in 2 hours and there's a note on his table saying he's signing at the Marvel booth. Come back by in 2 hours. So I come back by in 2 hours and he had packed up his stuff and he had gone for the day. So I was only there for 1 day, 2-day show. So I was working at the comic store at the time because I was working the next day. Okay, cool. So now I got my time frame right. So the comic book guys, that I worked with, they said, we'll get it from you, or we'll get it from them at the show for you tomorrow. So that whole next day, they were chasing them. Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? Because he promised it the day before. Luckily, I knew somebody at the show. So they did get the piece. It was really hacked out, not very good. And I was very disappointed. So Dean said that he likes, to see people excited about getting, the piece that they really wanted. If he saw me get that piece, it would have been like the wah, wah. And I'm like, really? Because I really liked his art up till that point. So, and I said to the guys I worked with, I'm like, did you get my reference books back? And they're like, what reference books? I'm like, oh. So fast forward about a year, unnamed comic creator comes back to a show. Same show that I was mentioning earlier today about the other comic creator that Dean was asking about with the Levi's, where I had great experience with. Unnamed comic creator is there, and I wanted to talk to him about the piece because I didn't like it. It wasn't good. It was really rushed. You could tell he just did it to shut the guys up, and I wanted my books back. So we had a table there for the show, and the guys had a bottle of Rumple Mints. So I had a couple shots of Rumple Mints, and then I went to unnamed comic creators line and I waited. Got up to the unnamed comic creator who was signing some of my Spider-Man books that he worked on. And I'm like, by any chance, do you remember me? Or do you remember last year's, convention? He's like, yeah. I'm like, do you remember me? He's like, no, not really. I'm like, do you remember this? And I pulled out the commission and I just saw his face droop, and he's like, oh. I'm like, well, yeah, it didn't kind of turn out the way that I'd hoped. And, I'm sorry, my friends had to run you down the next day to get it. But I was wondering, by any chance, do you still have the reference books, that I had to get for this? He's like, man, that was a year ago. I don't have those. What books were they anyway? I'm like, well, they were a couple issues of New Mutants. And he's like, oh, New Mutants, big deal. And now keep in mind, he was an artist on a Spider-Man book. So there was ages across the spectrum of people waiting in line for an autograph from this person, including a bunch of kids behind me between 5 and 10 years old. All right. And so I'm like, well, is New Mutants? He's like, oh, big deal. I'm like, well, they were Rob Liefeld New Mutants. And he's like, oh, Rob Liefeld, big effing deal. But he didn't say effing. He actually said the word in front of little kids. So angry about getting my book stolen and a bad commission, plus the Rumple Mints all mixed together. I'm just like, oh, hit a sore spot, did we? I'm like, jealous much? He's like, jealous of what? I'm like, well, let's see. He's got more talent than you. He's got more money than you. And I go, and obviously he's got more fans than you, right? And then he said something to me, and I don't remember what it was. And I'm just like, whatever. And I walked away. So, but it really twerked my buttons about it. The part that really made me the most upset about this creator was the swearing in front of kids
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
the other
Mhm.
creator. It's like, whether or not you like that creator, you don't drop the F-bomb in front of kids.
Mhm.
That was uncool. I didn't like that. So, see, Michael, that is the story of the unknown comic
My
creator.
bad. I'm sorry.
It sounds like,
I just wanted to hear the story because I just didn't figure that unnamed creator.
Yeah.
He looked so gentle and frail. I didn't think he was such.
is it
And the other thing, let me throw this in, as a disclaimer, because this is also the truth. As we've all been talking tonight, about experiences, about best practices, about ways to behave, ways not to behave. And this is true, even though you guys could tell, how it was about my story. Creators are people too.
Mhm.
Everybody has good days. Everybody has bad days. So the day that he didn't finish my commission, who knows what happened?
Right.
Maybe something happened at the Marvel booth. Maybe something bad happened at home. I don't know. The day that I went to talk to him about that, so you've got somebody coming up a year later saying, I didn't like this commission. Maybe I started that problem that day. Maybe I put him into a corner. I don't know. Maybe somebody hit his puppy that day with a truck. I don't know.
Maybe he just saw Rob Liefeld's line and he was just mad anyway.
Yeah.
That line was pretty awesome. It was cool. And so, who knows what is behind the scenes. So whenever you're at a show, and I'm talking to the folks who are on the other side of the creator table, remember the creator that you know and love. Maybe they're having a bad day. I had a bad experience with unknown comic creator. Other people have good experiences. The one, the jeans guy, as Dean had asked, I've heard plenty of bad experiences. Can't say that, everything's always positive with everybody anytime. So, it could just be that bad day, bad date. Who knows? So give everybody the benefit of the doubt and just be cool, because everybody's got a human, or everybody is a human, and maybe they're dealing with some stuff that you don't know about.
Yeah. And I got kind of a story like we were talking about earlier, and it ties into that, and recognizing that your creators are people too. CM Punk shared a story about there was one day where he's just out like outside his house walking his dog, and some dude pulls up in his neighborhood or jumps out of his car and runs up to him with an issue of Drax #1. It's like, hey, can you sign this? And he's like, I'm taking my dog out, man. I gotta get back to my wife. Like, we're supposed to get dinner. I guess. But he said, if you come, like, ask me at a convention, yeah, sure, I don't charge for autographs. I just do whatever. It's like I'm there to meet you those days. But if you come outside my house while I'm, not dressed while I look schlubby and my dog's taking a dump, I'm not going to be happy about it. I may sign it, I may not. I'll probably complain the entire time if I do. And all my interactions with him have been in conventions or things like that. So he's just been super nice and great. But it's the same kind of deal. Like you don't come up to me in the bathroom and pass a thing under the stall, ask me to sign it.
right?
Tim, in this kind of, Dean went down the road of this isn't so PC. Maybe this one isn't PC either. But I could only picture that scene happening with a female creator walking the dog.
Right.
Okay. So if I was a female creator walking my dog and a random fan
Just
is
jumped down the
driving
car.
down my street, that would scare the living poop out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, as a guy, I'd probably be already weirded out by it. But like, holy cow! I mean, that's creepy.
That'd be
you know? And depending also how that fan approaches you.
Yeah.
There are some very deranged people in this world. So that's kind of really infringing on a whole different level.
Yeah. If that, that'd be. It's and to your point, John. Also, when you're having these interactions with. Because even though we all operate in the same industry and fans and creators all share the same space, as a reader who has read Wolf Hunter, they know of me, but they don't really know me.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone at a convention is at some level a stranger. So when you're approaching these people, I think that's also another issue with the internet has done is with social media, is it's created this false friendship equivalence. If you've been following a creator online for so long, you think you have an idea of how to interact with them differently than you would if you just meet someone in the wild for the first time. And so when we're having these interactions, both as the creator and the fan, imagine the worst possible scenario for your interaction with them, and just keep that in mind when you're interacting with random people, because you don't want to hurt someone, and also you don't want to like uh, terrify someone by jumping out of your car and be like, "Hey," I mean, or like, "Am I about to get assaulted? What's happening right now?" Yeah,
That person better not be a gun enthusiast.
I was just gonna say, if you're in a state with concealed carry laws, that might not end well for you.
yeah.
Well, and here's the thing too. This goes back a little bit to what John was saying about the unnamed creator. There's a level of responsibility, social responsibility, that comes with being a creator who's sitting behind a table and signing their work. You've reached a level, and you're expected. Yes, you're a human being, and you have those flaws. You have good days and bad days, but there's a level of professionalism, and I would imagine that he knew that particular sketch was just cranked out in order to keep people from bugging him. And as uncomfortable as it may have been, I think that the way I would have approached you in that situation is I would have said, John, you know what? Here's what happened that day. I was carrying my lunch tray and tripped and fell, and everything got all over my stuff. And then it was awful. And then, somebody, threw a sack of tomatoes at me and this and that. And so, think is a bad day. And so I'm going to redraw you that commission at no cost. And I'm going to see if I can get you those books replaced, because again, the goodwill connection then pays dividends later on. I actually had something happen to me where I did a commission for someone and it was destroyed in shipping.
Oh.
And they complained. It was my fault. I did not properly pack the 11 by 17 in the box so that it wouldn't be damaged. And I didn't use FedEx. Always use FedEx. Sorry. And shameless plug. And so I had to redraw it and send it to him again at no cost. And it's just one of those things you realize what you're doing. You're being paid to draw pictures for people. Be gracious to them. Be nice to them. And here's the kicker people might have a problem with. Be nice to them even if they're not nice to you, because other people are watching. And, John also mentioned, using language in front of underage people, that's not a cool thing. So I would imagine, John, that this unnamed creator has a reputation, and it's probably not a great reputation in the industry because of behavior like that. Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention is, if people are there, if you're a creator, somebody says, hey, I want to get this drawing or whatever, and you're covered up and it's going to be some time and you got to go do a panel and all this other stuff. I always tell the person, look, are you just here for today, or are you going to be here tomorrow? Right. Again, that's a creator responsibility. You have to ask the fan, are you going to be here today because I've got this and this going on, or I'm covered up with commissions. I can get it to you tomorrow if you're here. And they go, oh man, I'm only here for today. I'm like, cool, no problem. If there's no way I can get it done, I'll get the shipping information and ship it to you. If I can squeeze it in, I'll tell them right there. But again, these are creator responsibilities. Yep. And a lot of these people just don't have common courtesy, and we've got to get back to this common courtesy. Tim, you mentioned this false familiarity that's created with internet contact and stuff. People need to understand something. That does not rescind common courtesy with your fellow human being. You are to treat people with common courtesy, be kind, be courteous, even if they're not nice to you. Be kind and be courteous. It will pay back dividends. Anyway.
Dean, what you had said there actually would have been perfect, and it could have worked out to the same scenario. So if unnamed comic creator said to me, are you only here today? I'm like, I would have said, yeah, I'm only here today, but I have friends that are working a table, and if you'd said, well, could you have them pick it up at the end of the show tomorrow? It would have been a whole different situation. you know, instead of them going there first thing in the morning and then again in the afternoon. And then, you know, I think they like opened this portfolio once, you know, when he left it behind and he had left the table, they were, you know, they're like, somebody was like, what are you doing? They're like, we're looking for the kids commission, you know? So yeah, you know, ask the question, it would have been the same thing, have the same people pick it up, just a whole different scenario. And we would be talking about it on Silverline Live literally 20 years later.
And that's, And
that being said, in our chat today, there was a mention of another artist who will not go named, who still owes me a U.S. agent commission from like 1992 when he did an in-store signing.
And that's
Wait, hold on while I go look at the chat today.
And Johnny, following up on that. So you said this event was about 20 years ago. And
literally.
And imagine then if social media was as present as it is now for that creator.
Wait a minute. Wait, no.
Oh.
No.
John, you're frying out.
You're absolutely sorry. Okay, I'm back. I think it says the internet connection's unstable. It's better than the computer saying I'm unstable. No, and I just realized I totally screwed up. 30 years.
30 years. Yeah. So even more
I am
so.
older than I wanted to admit. Yeah, because it would have been like 91, 92 for this one as well.
Right.
The unknown comic creator.
So
yeah.
So bad, the height of the unknown comic creator.
So bad word of mouth would have needed to circulate on AOL email chains.
Hey man, I still have my AOL address.
I do as well. But
Cylon 0011.
But
find me in a chat room.
But it's an old principle, but companies have always had professionalism standards, like Dean has said, and as a creator of your own, but then also as creators, we're usually contracted out by bigger companies or employed in staff positions some way, and usually part of that employment or contract agreement is you're in some way representing that bigger entity on your professional duties. And now we're seeing where, you know, some people are not maintaining themselves professionally in the public eye, and so their companies like say like, you're not the best for our standards right now, so for a lot of creators now, also keep in mind that if you are bad mouthing and you know, cursing up a storm in front of kids, and your employer is probably going to find out, or potential future employers are, and they're going to look back at that and say like, he's not the most professional. Do you want to have that kind of conduct reflected in the image you put forth? And so that's also something you might remind. It's
I've always been told.
Maybe not as altruistic as, you know, Dean's like always treat everything with common courtesy and respect, which you should. But if you're not a common courtesy person, know that you could be, you know, screwing yourself out of a job in the future by not being professional.
Good point.
Well, I read one time from one of these, one of the drawing books. I want to say it was Klaus Janson. Yes, I said a name, but it's a good time. Say a name. So made the statement that if you want to work in the industry, there's three things: either be fast, good, or nice. If you can be all three things, you'll make a lot of money. But at least be two of those things out of the three. So maybe said creator was fast and good, just not the third. So
let me share this one, and this person will not be named or identified or anything. But this is a fan gone wrong.
Ooh.
Okay. So kind of like Tim's scenario, and then like Dean's, you know, always be better. It's like this one, it's kind of hard to. So Marvel, as Marvel evolved, quote unquote, over the decades, there weren't really staff positions with artists. It's all freelance, right?
Yep.
So there was a creator I know who was freelancing back at Marvel, has been at all the big companies, probably has been published under every banner and title, or publisher. Very big name. And there was somebody at a show that commissioned said artist to do a cover. And, you know, we know that commission work gets fit in where they can in between juggling all of their gigs. Well, apparently this fan who commissioned a piece to be used for a cover for his own self-published book didn't like the amount of time that the creator was taking. to create the cover, called Marvel Comics and complained to editors at Marvel that so-and-so took my money and hasn't given me my cover, which has nothing to do with Marvel.
Oh man.
And then through the wonders of the internet, found the phone number for said or unsaid creator's mother and called and harassed the creator's mother
What?
over the cover that he didn't get in the timely frame that he thought he should have gotten it. That's crazy tunes.
That's a stalking charge in the
nuts.
making.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
right.
is.
Yeah, I mean, and so the artist, that was going to do the cover had a chat board at the time, and that's how we knew about all the stuff, because it was one of the fans, regular on the chat board. And then when this came to light, all of us regulars on the chat were like, what? Yeah, and apparently that person also had some other issues because he was going around to smaller cons and saying he worked for Big Twos where he didn't, and he was giving presentations for stuff he hadn't done, and he actually had to go underground for a while.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a while, which was very interesting. But yeah, so there are some crazy people out there.
Yeah.
Please don't be one of them. We won't be on the other side of the table, and we can all just get along. Yeah.
All right. So the review has been re-uploaded, so we're going to give it a shot again, see if it works. And I didn't mention this at the top of the show, so I'll mention it here, but we are brought to you by Taydona Beach Comic Con. Their dates are posted on their website. Look them up, and hopefully we can have some friendly fan interactions then.
Not in El Baño.
Hi, this is Wayne Hall back again to talk about indie comics you can get at your comic shop, as well as some other places. So, because it's Black History Month, I thought I would continue with that theme for the last one of the month, and a book that has switched gears, sort of. It came out on February 2nd, and you probably remember me talking about this book previously. Well, you remember the high-low part anyway. High-low is this guy right here, and he had a series of 6 books come out. I reviewed it before because I always get a little mystified that I always choose books that don't have a lot of humor in them. But this is a Judd Winnick book, and this is the 7th book in the series, and it's called High-Low, Gina, the Girl Who Broke the World, obviously. And the interesting thing about this, of course, High-Low is this guy here, as I pointed out, and he's not a person of color. In fact, he's not really a person. He turns out to be a robot, which I've mentioned before. And he is, let's just say that storyline resolves in the 6th book. And then we get to the 7th book. It switches gears, like I said, and it goes to her. That's Gina, one of High-Low's close friends. Gina happens to be a person of color. And she is, of course, he is too, just a little different color slightly. And where his book tended to deal with science and things like that, her book tends to deal with magic and mystical things. So it's a very different direction, shall we say, about it. So what I thought I would do, I would read what this book is about. It's hundreds of years ago, magic disappeared from Earth, at least until now, because suddenly giant magical beings are appearing and only Gina can see them. Not to mention, Gina can somehow do magic herself. Magic is powerful, but it can also be dangerous. With DJ and High-Low's help, can Gina figure out how to protect the magical beings from the creatures who are after them? And how can she use her magic to become who she was always meant to be? And can she do it without putting the entire planet in jeopardy? Find out in High-Low 7, a laugh-out-loud, action-packed adventure filled with epic battles, friendship, annoying older brothers, annoying older sisters, good guys, bad guys, inappropriate jokes, mangoes, magic, and much, much more. The list price is $13.99, and stores can certainly get it, but you can also, if for some reason your store didn't order it and they can't order it for you, you can also get it through Amazon, and they give you a little bit of a discount on the price and stuff, and they'll ship it to you. But like I said, this came out February 2nd, so it was appropriately in Black History Month, and her character is definitely taking the lead of it. You do see High-Low. he's much more of a humorous side character than he was in the beginning. And DJ is here. He's kind of the science guy of the bunch. Granted, so is Hilo, but he's an earth science guy. So what happens is, and interesting, of course, Judd Winnick, as in previous books, he does all the artwork. I think he does the lettering, the coloring. He does it all. And there's Hilo. He's going to school with them now, and so he's got mangoes, of course, which is one thing he really likes. And they come across this being, and they're not exactly sure what the deal is with him. And of course, they always have kid-style humor. This is when he does this thing right here, her reaction is, wow, that smells like a possum spot. So there's lots of humor, I think, that kids in particular would like. You do see some adults. There's one of the adults. And, we see a lot of people of color. We see her history and the family and things like that. And, of course, none of these books would be good without some self-doubt creeping in and wondering how they can possibly take care of things. And that is and then, of course, the magic starts to rear, and she gets a crystal ball to deal with, and she gets dragged along by a monster at one point. She's got, and of course, Hilo jumps onto the computer at another place, and there's the adults involved, and they're at school. They learn how to speak all together, which is kind of funny. But the interesting thing about this is that if you think this is going to be a self-contained book, no. Just like the first 6 books of Hilo carried on from one to the other, that's how this goes. So I won't show you where it gets there, but let's just say there's some things going on that will continue into the next book. And I'm not exactly sure when the next book's going to come. But there's a very important panel in this one here. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see where he goes with this and how he goes in a very different direction. Science takes a back seat to magic and mystical things and stuff. There's a ship going on. I do like the light sense of humor involved with it. It's just a great thing. Like I said, this book kind of makes up for all the books that I get that are very, very serious. So this one is not. And I think I like it. I think kids will enjoy it. I think adults will too. So anyway, word of warning, like I said, it's not going to wrap up in this book. The other one was 6 books long. I have a feeling this might be about the same. So be prepared for the long ride if you want to do that. Anyway, let's get to the grading here. The writing, as always, is very comical and very light. Lots of interesting things going on. Lots of interesting characters. A big cast of characters, which I really enjoy. And so I always give the writing an A. I think that Judd does a beautiful job with this one here. The art, and I've showed you some pictures of the art. The art is very perfect for this story. Very light, very breezy. Lots of funny eye movements and stuff like that. So since it's so perfect for the story, I also have to give this an A. It's a very good thing. The lettering, I'm really hard on lettering, but I think Judd does a good job of making sure that, see, there's a panel away from their faces, which is good. It doesn't cover up the art. So I like that. And I like it when they do, like, see her, when she says something there, it's off to the side, so we get to see everything pretty clearly. And he does a good job of that. And of course, there's one where he's showing his belly, typical kid thing. And it doesn't necessarily cover over the stuff. So I think the lettering's actually quite good in this book. I'd give it a B, very likely. Could be an A, but I'd give it a B. Then we get to the literary merit. Again, I think that these books are going to be something that I think even 10 years from now, I think kids will really enjoy, and adults too. So as far as literary merit goes, I would say that this book is also a very strong book. There's science involved, but it's not so linked to specific things going on. It's more like trends. And that, I think, will make it a longer lasting book. So I think literary merit, a good B. That's what I'd say. Now, the thing that I think that really works for this book and works well is the fun factor. You know, like I said, I have so many books that I read. The fun factor is D or D minus. This is not that way. Here's the brother comes over to babysit them when the things are going on. And I won't show you the resolution of that storyline, but let's just say, well, here's a video game thing going on. He's a big video gamer, but he's supposed to watch them. And of course, Gina knows very well what's going to tempt people. And so she uses the video game to tempt him so they can do what they need to do. Very good. So the fun factor A, I mean, come on, it's silly when it needs to be. It's interesting. These two characters are an important part of the story. And very interesting. It's not your typical thing going on with them. So I really like that. So fun factor, like I said, A. Overall grade, if you're a younger reader, I would say this is like an A+. It's just the kind of thing that I think younger readers will really love. If you're an older reader like me who likes variety, I would also say this is an A. If you're one of those people who doesn't like comedy or humor in your books very much, you might give it a B or a C, but I don't. I would give this a definite A. And I think that if you've got kids and you're interested in getting them into reading, you can start here because you've got a girl of color at the beginning, especially if your family is of color. This might be a good place to start. But if you want to understand the whole story, I would go back to Hilo #1 and take it all the way through. Great book. If you can't get it through your local shop, go to Amazon and get it there. But this is only the first, and I imagine there's going to be many more to come. So this is Wayne saying, enjoy your books and keep reading your comics.
You know, of course, this is not the first time the Star Wars conversation has come up tonight for me.
Yeah.
So,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Silverline's Wednesday Night WHAM, hosted by us four hooligans. Again, brought to you by Daytona Beach Comic Con. We have our Kickstarter coming up soon. More details on SilverlineComics.com. Follow us on all the socials as well. We are talking about the practice of asking for payment for autographs and have segued into general fan-creator interaction and convention etiquette. Amy Stephanie in the chat asks, are there any unspoken rules or etiquettes between fans? So fan-to-fan interaction, I'm guessing. First and foremost, shower and wear deodorant every morning.
and no cutsies.
No cutting. Yeah.
Yeah, the lines and cues are there for a reason. And
I was going to say it.
yeah, there is definitely no cutting. And it is something that, you know, is joked around about, and it did just come up, and it sometimes can come off as rude. But it's not intended that way, and I know none of us would intend it that way. But some people do need to hear it. You know, when you're in a convention, you're in a confined, limited space for hours with lots of other people, and we're not even talking pandemic. Okay. Please shower and or bathe daily. Deodorant or perfume does not cover up stank. And anybody who's been on a convention circuit knows the phrase con crud.
Yep.
That people usually come down sick after a show.
Yes.
Because you're in a confined space with so many people shaking hands, signing things.
You get so many germs on you, and they'll just marinate all day.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
You know,
besides the people around you, do it for yourself to make sure you can stay healthy and enjoy the rest of the convention as well.
yeah.
That's great advice, and I would add only that for creators, have Purell, some hand sanitizer at the table. I know that, you know, pre-COVID, you know, I'm a handshake person. I don't have a problem with that, you know, or fist bump or whatever. Now, who knows what it's going to be post-COVID, but even just to be safe, you know, have it with you. That was a practice we started, oh gosh, at least in the early 2000s. It just always had the Purell there, always, you know, shake somebody's hand, you know, do the Purell. That the other thing, one of the joking subject we were going to talk about tonight is, hey, what's your favorite chips while you're at a show, while you're drawing, or while you're being a fan? Where I can't do that. How do you guys draw with like chip dust on your hand? I mean, I can't. There's not, for me, it was Planters dry roasted peanuts, because otherwise you get those Dorito dust on your hands, man. There's no way. I mean,
well, what if you match your snack to the commission that you're drawing?
Right,
so if you're drawing like a Tigra, you're pulling out the Cheetos and the Doritos because of the orange skin.
Right, it's doing like model painting or doing texturing. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so like, what's a green chip? Because you're drawing the Hulk. You have something like with a green. There you go. That's what you're eating at that point. Yeah.
You get some of those avocado chips.
There you go.
Yeah.
My kid loves those Takis. There's the blue ones. So I don't know. Somebody's drawing that.
Sure.
Break out the blue Takis, and there you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a method to it.
Yeah. I'm a constant drinker. I always have some sort of beverage near me. That sounded a little weird at first. So, like, always have like.
Wait a second. Nicely done.
Yes.
Nicely done.
Always have like a Surge or a LaCroix or something with me, or like a Reign energy drink, something like that. And something that has happened to me is I've had someone just come up and take a sip from it, which is already weird. I definitely don't do that now.
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah.
Somebody drank out of your drink?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is like they're absent-minded or looking at the table and they thought it was theirs or something, but before it was already weird. Now I'm asking you to leave.
Now we've traded spit. Yeah. We're one and the same.
God, yeah, especially like Tim. Like when I first met you, that's when we were calling you COVID Tim.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right? You don't want to drink out of the cup of COVID Tim.
Oh no. The other thing is, this is a segue to this too. Okay, don't, for creators, try your best. I know it's not always possible. Try your best not to eat at the table. Here's the problem. I have tried, even taking a bite of the sandwich and or hamburger that's underneath the table. Inevitably, when you take a bite and you got a mouthful, somebody comes up to ask you a question. And it's inevitable. Number two, it's just, you never look right, with a mouthful of food. Oh, thank you for liking our artwork. It just doesn't. So either take a break, go eat it, off camera, off stage eating is better than on stage eating. Another plug for peanuts though. That always works. You can just throw those down, chew them down real quick, and you get right back up. But honestly, guys, in San Diego, we didn't have time to eat. I mean, it was brutal. You get there and you start interacting, and you're there first thing in the morning, and you're there till the end of the day, and no food usually. I mean, there's drink. There's the people coming by sometimes, and you need water, you need this, you need that, you need a Coke or whatever. But no, I mean, it was brutal.
Yep. We had to. The only time we've risked it is when we've had a staff of like 3 people on a table, so we were able to parse people out. Or if we had like a crate or something and they need to be there for their book, they'd be behind the 2 of us just kind of nibbling on their thing.
Even back then, I was worried about like germs and stuff with eating at the table, because, shaking hands and whatnot.
Sure.
Post-COVID world, you're absolutely right on that. And so when I'm at shows, I'll usually wear like my Hawaiian shirts or my Spider-Man shirt or whatnot. Usually not t-shirts, because fat guys shouldn't be wearing t-shirts because it shows all the bulges and rolls you don't want to show off. Also black, very slimming, so you'll see a lot of that. But where's I even going with this? Oh yeah. Talking about professionalism. Since we were talking about Neil Adams several times today, that's one thing I've always liked about Neil. Neil always has like a professional dress shirt and a tie. Every time I've seen him, it's been the blue dress shirt and a tie, usually with the khakis and gym shoes. And I was like, I used to dress like that when I would teach. I was like, that's so cool. I love it. But yeah, he dresses the professional part to go along with the professionalism that he shows at the table.
Yep.
Friendly yet professional. Yeah, I always admired that.
Well, there was a trend going on, and you guys will remember this when I bring it up. There was a trend in the 90s where certain people would always show up in a suit. And I know they were doing it as kind of a publicity stunt, but it would work because all of a sudden the people in the suits standing next to all of us schlubs who were in just a t-shirt and jeans or whatever, right? And they looked like the part, you know? So again, dressing nicer. I'm not saying you have to wear a suit, but like you're saying, you know, if you dress a little up, depending, even if that's not necessarily your personality, you're like, no, dude, I'm total slacker. It's part of my thing, whatever. And that's totally fine. But if you do dress up just a little bit, it creates an ambiance, if you will. It creates
and you
a
can
level of professionalism.
And you can find ways to modify it too to fit your personal aesthetic or your brand.
Yes.
Like Kevin Feige stole my look. So I'd be there like in a polo or in something like that with a snapback hat on or something. But besides that, yeah. But you know, I've always had some form of HRG or horn-rimmed glasses, which always kind of sell the writer aesthetic more. So that with the polo slacks and then a snapback hat on top of that, it looks unique enough while also presenting that demeanor. Your first impression is very important for any sort of direct sales situation. So cons are about a community, about fostering the creativity of comics, but it is a direct sale environment.
Absolutely, it is. I remember we used to joke that all right, everybody got their uniform, black, you know, and
it's slimming.
We
like
were
I said.
all black.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it was.
I think the one time I wore a t-shirt was when Joe Manganiello launched Death Saves. And so I got one of his t-shirts to kind of, like, hey, here's this cool thing happening in the community, and I'm part of it. I'm one of you, kids. Buy my books.
I'm one of you. That's great. That's great. I want to touch on something we talked about during the break, and this is about photo reference. And a lot of creators have questions about photo reference. How much is too much? How accurate is too accurate? How not accurate is too not accurate? And I'd love to get you guys' feedback and thoughts on those issues, particularly as creators and as fans. Do you like seeing some, wow, that's totally realistic rendering of that car or that building or that room or that vehicle or that environment? Or does it not matter to you at all? I'm just curious.
I think depending. So for something I noticed in hero books, and like I'm still pitching certain hero books, but the ones I read, you don't really see too many backgrounds or hyper developed backgrounds or anything like that, unless it's an establishing shot.
Right.
However, my current book, Wolf Hunter, it's a historical piece, and we're using historical locations, historical machines, historical outfits. And when I got pages back from A.J. Cassetta, the penciler, everything is very hyper developed, and John Martin, who's inking it, said his ruler is like on the point of breaking, just matching all the straight lines. And I think for that situation, that's when it does kind of get something important, because it's part of what makes a story like this unique. But then also thinking about the markets who buys historical fiction, let alone visual historical fiction, they're probably going to nitpick the crap out of us. So I'm already dreading that.
Yeah.
But then also, what we're all doing our part. I had to research English common law passed in 1936 for writing this. And AJ has researched the facade of Union Station in London and what the engine of a Hurricane fighter looks like. And so that level of hyper realism and hyper reference, I feel like that's when it comes into play. But if it's more or less your traditional comic, you may not need it, I would say, or even for like portraits.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. For me, it's always been, you want to anchor the material in reality, because I'm in the realism school, not hyper realism, but what I call filtered realism through the eyes of the artist. So being in that school, what I want to do is anchor the material in reality, but then imply the reality more than anything else. And in fact, it's interesting you brought up a ruler, Tim, because one of the things I've done in recent years, I for the most part, I try to throw all my straight edges away. And people go, yeah, that's right. That's why your stuff looks crappy. But what I do with my environments now, even buildings and structures and so on, is I'll make sure the perspective is as close as it needs to be to sell the shot. But if you freehand it, there's something about that level of the organic level of tone that it gives the piece that, you know, it's better than using a ruler to draw. Like if I was drawing the White House, okay, everybody knows what that looks like kind of in their mind, right? So I'm drawing the White House and you know, and do I sit there and spend hours and hours with a straight edge and get every column right, every window right? And some people go, well, hell yeah. But what I'd rather do is look at that photo and just look at it and then hand draw my impression of the White House. And it's not going to be particularly fully accurate in every detail, but you will know when you look at that shot, it's the White House, right? It's going to be faster. It's also going to be artistic filtered. So again, you know, was it C. Michael, were you saying you got to be good, fast, and nice?
Yeah.
You know, those three things, right? If you want to keep the fast part going, that helps a lot. You start getting into like architectural rendering levels for some of these environments. And no, dude, you'll never meet a deadline. I mean, there's just no way. If you're even near the realistic school, you will never meet a deadline. I mean, it's just, it won't happen.
You know, Dean, actually, since you mentioned White House, Sniper and Rook #1 available, you know, through Silverline at indieplanet.com. That's awesome. indieplanet.com.
Nice.
Actually, thank you. You know, we actually have the White House in issue 1. So, you know, the artist, Jonathan, who did the first 4 issues for me, he was young talent at the time, very like J. Scott Campbell, anime influenced.
Very
and if he were to have drawn the White House photorealistically, it would completely have clashed with the rest of the book. It would stand out and look funny. It would look out of place. The way that he drew it, you know, not architecturally correct, but it had a vibe and a vibrance to it because it was energetic like the rest of his art, you know. And so if you have people who do, you know, the low detail rendering, it's nice, you know, but you could just photocopy something like that, you know. There's no point in that, you know. If it's not going to match, you know, if that's your style, that's great. But like you said, you're never going to hit a deadline. You know, there are other, you know, 90s artists that we could mention who were very, very hyper detailed that were getting paid $40,000 an issue and couldn't keep up their book because of their minute detailing, and they didn't want to turn in something that didn't meet their standards. But at the end, it's like, okay, so there's no book, you know. So that kind of sucks.
And and also John, like you mentioned with Sniper and Rook, doesn't match the tone of the rest of the story. I mean, we did the facade of Union Station, but Wolf Hunters very much had to do with facades in general. Face value plays a lot into theming, but you can also find ways to play around with that. So like he did not like 1-for-1 Union Station, but AJ did do a lot of what's the facial detail of this look like and how do you imply that.
Well, the thing about go ahead.
I was gonna say, but when I think about like my actual preferred style, like what I like to see is very surrealist. I like a lot of Rocky Kim stuff. I keep forgetting the name of the artist, but who's working on Department of Truth with James Tinian. The soft lines, a lot of heavily blended colors, and then jagged edging, just kind of making things. You could tell that they're able to get through this very quickly, but there's a lot of mental like input done to their subconscious as they created everything. Like not just like how does this look, but how does it feel? And I think that also gives a really strong impact without,
It's
needing a whole
almost
lot of
like a
reference.
multi-sensory thing.
Exactly.
That
You're getting the most value out of the visual in the medium.
So that's what I was going to say. It's not you're not really trying to capture photorealism
Yep.
as much as you're trying to capture atmosphere.
Mhm.
I think I was at the mall the other day and just looking at something details far away. You can't see what those details are. You just get an idea of what it is, and your brain's going to tell you what they look like, but it's going to convey that feeling, and that's what you want to do as an artist. Is you're conveying an atmosphere, even as a writer. It's not just a visual artist. Even as a writer, you want to convey an atmosphere. You want to convey an environment because that's what people are going to remember. It's not the details. It's going to be the environment.
Yeah.
How did that make me feel?
So Sniper and Rook #9. The setting, Sniper's undercover. He's in high school. And I actually sent the artist for that issue photo reference of my high school because that's what I had in my mind when I was writing it. And did it come out looking just like that? No. He took it and ran with it and it came out to the high school in the book. That's exactly the way it should have been. It's like, okay, this is what I'm picturing. Now you take this and art it your way. And then it came out great. It didn't look line for line, or should it have?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I think what you guys are saying, it brings me to this conclusion that charm and power are more important than photorealistic accuracy.
Yeah.
Impact. I had a colleague of mine ask me back in the day in the 90s when I was working at full time, and he was picking apart something I'd drawn, and I said, I'm more Frazetta than Boris Vallejo. I said, I'd rather it be powerful than accurate, and I've stuck by that. And I would encourage people, if you're trying to decide that, if you're an aspiring artist and it doesn't look exactly like, it doesn't matter. It's more important for it to be powerful. We've had this discussion before in regard to Gotham City as interpreted by Tim Burton versus Gotham City as interpreted by Chris Nolan. I mean, if you want to talk about the perfect metaphor for photorealism versus charming power, I mean, there's no comparison between those two.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dean, could I throw in one more word?
Yes.
I think the other word that I would throw in, because everything that you said was completely dead on accurate, absolutely right. About the power, about the charm. The word I'd want to add would be storytelling.
Yeah.
Remember, all of your art, you're telling a story. The writer tells it through words. The artist tells it through pictures and their interpretation. So the art, whatever style you have, even if it leans more photorealistic, it needs to tell the story.
Yep.
That is what you're supposed to convey, not a beautiful, perfect rendering of the White House.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. Not bad for a writer, huh?
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
All right. So we're getting about there. In the YouTube chat, Roland says to tell C that there are lots of beaches in Rejects #2.
A lot of snow scenes, right?
Oh my god! Could I throw in one last thing?
Oh,
sure.
Talking about creators, because I remembered this story earlier. Has anybody ever heard of the creator that if you gave them a reprint to sign, they pulled out a rubber stamp and stamped their name?
No.
Google that one. That one's a fun one. I always cracked up when I heard that.
Okay.
So yeah, they would not sign a reprint. They would just stamp it with a rubber stamp with their signature.
That's hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. My bad.
Right.
I'll shut up now.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Wednesday WHAM, hosted by We for Motley Fools. Brought to you by Daytona Beach Comic Con. Details at DaytonaBeachComicCon.com. And you can follow us at SilverlineComics.com, where you can find our link to all of our merch and comics available through Indie Planet. I have been your producer/seducer, Tim TK, on all the social medias at Tim TK Writer. TikTok at Tim Doesn't TikTok, and Twitch at AgroBacon, where I'll be live later tonight. Maybe with Destiny, maybe something else. I'm not sure. Dean, where can people find you?
People can find me at the usual places on the social network, Facebook primarily, and they can also find information about me on SilverlineComics.com. And remember, folks, creativity is beyond calculation. I just have to say that. I just have to.
Love
It's my
that.
tag.
We're gonna get that
Is
on a
that,
t-shirt.
is that yours?
That's mine.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Impressive.
That is
Most
awesome.
impressive.
All right. Mr. All-Seeing Michael Lanning, where can people see you?
Of course, you can see me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I try to be on there a little bit more now. Of course, I do Weekend It on Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Comic Sunday brunch at 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. And now I've just picked up a new gig as a co-host on Geek Speak on Mondays. So look for it there. Yeah, I know, right?
Wow, make sure you save some time for drawing,
I
bro.
know.
That's awesome, though.
Wait, am I supposed to draw?
We're gonna have to change
That's
C's
honest
name to
then.
the busiest man in comics.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
All right.
Oh, the good thing about this is I can wing it all. So
There we go. And Mr. John Metych, the Trace.
Everybody, I've got stuff on all the social medias, but I don't use them all much. I kind of get scattered. I'm like, too many. Facebook, best place to find me, John Metych III. Also on Facebook.com/beta3comics. Where's that backslash? And so you can find out more about Sniper and Rook. One plug on that, I have been getting some new pages from my longtime partner, Bill Mouse. So there will be new Sniper and Rook this year. Stuff's looking great. Been a long time coming. So thank y'all for sticking through.
All right. And we got another important note in the chat. C, you got a Kickstarter going on right now, right?
Oh, right. Kickstarter for Terraform Comics, Enter the Continuum. We got 16 days left. I have a short story in there called The Reaper. So go check that out. Oh, and it's 2/3 Silverline family for Reapers, because Jeremy Kahn, also known as the colorist for the upcoming Friar Rush Kickstarter coming up, and of course my Team Beetle cover, is also the colorist on that. So
There you go.
he's doing fantastic work. Love it.
Perfect. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been your Silverline Wednesday night WHAM. And we are going to go to our respective beds now. I wish you a good night, and we will see you next week. But until then, make mine Silverline.
Silverline.